In what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? Our media product, Missing Imagination, is an opening sequence of a psychological thriller. When comparing our product to other professional films, such as Shutter Island, we can see that we haven't challenged any psychological thriller conventions that are used in the majority of films in the genre, nor have we challenged any thriller conventions in general. A way to support the idea that we've conformed to general conventions would be through emotional conflict between our characters. One main example would be the conflict that the male character endures mentally and emotionally rather than physically. This was shown as our antagonist, the old man in the park, sits on the park bench, hearing repetitive voices from the victim, having him play on his mind as he fights the urge to abduct the child from the mum's. This convention we use to indicate what genre the movie is and what effects we used with the camera techniques to show, such as panning around the actor, slowing down the clip and echoing the sounds of laughing. This shows the audience that the character was in his mind and it's also specifically only showing him. Another example shows the emotional conflict between the mother and the kidnapper. Another subgenre convention that we conform to is suspense between each character and thinking about each other and playing on each other's minds. This is true in our opening sequence when the mother first of all sees a crooked man sat on the bench and then comes back from the car to find her daughter missing and instantly starts thinking about the man who's the obvious abductor. Another example to support the idea that we've conformed to general conventions would be the narrative, which should revolve around crime like murders and rape. In our opening sequence, we present an abduction of a little girl. A third supporting idea that shows we've conformed to general conventions would be the involvement of an antagonist and protagonist. To expand, the mother could be the protagonist of the opening sequence, as she is seen as an overpowered and out of control of the actions of her young daughter. How does your media product represent particular social groups? As our opening sequence only consists of 3 characters, there aren't many social groups to analyse. However, our sequence represents age and class well. The characters represented in our opening sequence are our antagonist, who is a middle-aged man about 45 to 50 years old. Our female character is roughly about 25 to 30 years old, and our final character in the opening sequence is our child victim, who is roughly about 8 years old. Class is also represented in our opening sequence, as our mother character and the child victim are both represented as working class citizens. This is shown through costume, as their clothes are very basic and slightly scruffy, especially the mother character as she wears jeans and a shirt over a white top. However, our old man character is shown as a higher class citizen. This is also shown through his costume and hair, showing him with a comb over and a nice sharp pair of chinos with fairly trained shoes. Our character conforms to the stereotypical characteristics of the people what we are representing. For example, the young child in the opening sequence gets abducted, which shows children as being weak and inferior to men. We all see young children as unable to defend themselves and perhaps in hopeless situations like kidnapping. Likewise, our mother character and old man character conform to stereotypes. For example, the mother conforms to the stereotype of the normal mothers, although not many mothers would have left their child like our character left ours in one of the early scenes. In a situation where your child is hurt, people don't always think this straight. A stereotype of everyday families is the bond between the mother and child is sometimes stronger than with the father, which is why we chose the mother to take her daughter to the park and find her in the missing by the end of the sequence. And finally, the old man conforms to the stereotype, as in reality men can often be seen as dominant and superior, and can have a lot of power over women and children. Our male character is exactly like this. He can control the little girl's actions and take her away from her mother, which is realistic. This links to our target audience, as we found that mostly 15 to 20-year-olds but students would be interested in our movie, as we found out from conducting primary research. So this would appeal to people in our target audience, as our movie would represent various ages, ranges, and class. What kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why? As our product is a movie, it would be distributed by a film company. We don't think, however, this film would be produced by a Hollywood film studio. We've decided as a group our movie would be an independent/art house movie, which is indie. Although art house movies usually only have a niche market, our movie would have a slightly differ because it would be a larger audience with a regular art house movie, as thrillers are very popular in different types of people. If it was made fully, it would probably be a small budget movie, as possibly be released straight to DVD or an indie movie channel such as Sky Movies, Indie or Future Shorts. We think it might also be released on various movie sites online or will be appropriate for downloading off the internet. The mise-en-scene in our opening sequence is very basic with hardly any detail. Our costume and makeup is very minimalistic. Everyday clothes and natural makeup just to enhance the features. Our lighting was ambient and needed nothing to enhance it further. Our location and setting was a very open plan park, so it allowed us to be flexible with the filming and props again. We were kept simple just to justify our reasons for the plot. Another example was the old man character. He was doing a crossword in the park just to make it seem like he went there to get some peace and quiet. Our mise en scene was kept extremely simple, which shows that it would be a low-budget movie and indie, because it's not very elaborate and glamorised such as a Hollywood movie would be. We think that if our movie were to be released, it unfortunately would not offer opportunities to turn into a franchise, as our storyline is very set and cannot be expanded much more. Also, this is an indie movie. It probably wouldn't have a merchandise, as there are no specific characteristics that would be suitable to make figurines or bedroom accessories, for that example. Who would be the audience for your media product? From our research, our group found gender, age and type of person that would be most interested in watching our film. In our primary research, most of the people we asked were aged about 15 to 20 years old. However, there were a few 30 to 35-year-olds. We asked them questions like, what is your occupation, and do you enjoy thriller movies? From this, we found thriller movies are mostly popular with males, as they have a lot of action, and they're much more enjoyable to watch. The people that we asked were sociable people who spend time with their friends. This was deliberate to the fact of friends can all discuss their opinions and thoughts on the film. An example to a film close to ours was Shutter Island, containing mentally disabled people and weak characters, a protagonist. Shutter Island appeals to exactly the same age of ours, age group of 15 to 40 years old. Another film that similar to ours is The Lovely Bones. As a young girl goes missing and you see the mother's pain. This film appealed to adults as they put themselves in the mother's shoes. When doing our questionnaire, we asked people in our primary research if they would be comfortable watching a movie with the theme of abduction or paedophilia, as this is what our film centres around. Most people said that as it is a horrible theme, most thrillers centre around tragic or slightly unreal theme. As conducted in our secondary research, the most psychological thrillers are usually classified 15 by the BBFC because of the themes being disturbing or troubling to anyone under the age of 15. How did you attract or address your audience? To attract our audience in the opening sequence, we use many different techniques, mostly including sound and camera work. There are specific scenes that would terrify or interest different age groups and genders. Our camera work is very diverse, and there are a lot of different shots in it. For example, a pan around the old man character, and a high-angle shot of the park when the old man abducts a child, and many various close-ups and extreme close-ups. This keeps the audience hooked on the screen, as it keeps it quite diverse and different. Our use of sound was also a very good way to attract the audience, as we used tracks we'd made in GarageBand. That built up suspense, so it made the audience think something bad was going to happen, even though it doesn't. We also used loud bangs at the end of our opening sequences, as images flashed on screens of the abductor, as well as these being mixed with images of the little girl. This tends to make the audience jump, as it's very loud and of a sudden, so it's so unexpected, and could startle people. As it may be quite startling, it would not be advised for younger people to watch this, for reasons as it's classified at 15. We also feel that somebody under 15 may not grasp the idea of what's going on in the film, and may find some of the scenes disturbing. In our opening sequence, we have quite a lot of focus on the mother character, though some camera work. This makes people that watch our movie, particularly females watch it, put themselves in the mother's position and make themselves ask, what if that was me? This could attract females to this movie, as it'd be very touching to watch and could make them prevent things like this from happening in reality. Males will almost definitely not put themselves in the position of the old man, who's portrayed as an abductor or paedophile, as this character is not how regular people think, and it's a disturbed character, and men would not see themselves as this, as it's very morally wrong. However, they might get a strong dislike to the character because of the way he is, which could alter the way they feel towards other people at the moment in time. The impact of this would keep the audience's attention, making sure they concentrate and carry on watching the film. The effect we were aiming for overall was to make people sympathetic and at the same time interested in how the story is going to end. What have you learned about technologies from the process of contrasting the product? From the beginning of the course, we were very much clueless about all the filming, editing and sound equipment that we'd be using to make our opening sequence. All the equipment we used was relatively new to us, except for the Canon camera, as that was pretty straightforward. The filming process of our opening sequence was very straightforward, as we'd used the camera and tripod for filming before on a proper location. We all found it easy to use the tripod and the different elements of the camera, for example the zoom. There were things about our group that struggled during the making of this product, but we also had our strengths, which improved the quality of it. One weakness we had during filming was the struggle to keep any of the panning of the camera smooth and to keep it from shaking. This was difficult, as every small movement is visible. There is a handle on the tripod which helped us out by trying to remain steady when filming. Our group found filming really easy and enjoying doing it together and taking turns of using the camera. We used lots of close-ups and long shots in our film. We kept that part simple. We used elements like panning across and panning around in scenes 1 and 3. We used a high-angle shot when looking down on little girls' cut hands. We done this by having someone with the camera on the climbing frame at the top, as we filmed in a park. They simply zoomed into a good enough view of the little girl on the floor. On the day of filming, we did not have any problems with the actual filming, however it was more on the continuity side, but overall our filming process was very successful. Final Cut Pro was the software we used to edit our opening sequence. We had also got to learn about this and use it prior to editing our actual opening sequence. We learned how to mark in and out of the footage, cut the footage and drag chosen clips into place. We also learned how to add effects and colour correction and to make the movie seem more unrealistic, which is what we wanted to go along with our storyline. We also learned how to add sound, take it away and change the volumes. During the actual editing of our opening sequence, we did not really encounter huge problems. However, we found some parts of it very time consuming, which was what we expected. But also we found it more difficult to keep the continuity in check within our opening sequence. However, the general editing process went well and we learned how to use it very quickly and efficiently. For example, adding the blur effect shows it was a dream and looked like in the elder man's imagination. When it came to trying to make the soundtrack, this was fun to do. We wanted an eerie backing track, something to make the hairs on your back stand up, as well as the children's laughter in scene 3. We tried searching for a heartbeat, but none of the ones on GarageBand sounded lifelike. We also hoped to find a single heavy beat drum. There was only club beats. We wanted to use this effect for the last scene on the close-ups of one of the antagonist's face. We found something similar, but it wasn't a drum beat, but it still sounded very effective. However, the actual making of our soundtrack was very straightforward and required laying certain tracks on top of each other. Overall, the different technologies were very straightforward and easy to get to grips with, and we found it very easy to use, especially because occasionally each had an extra bit of knowledge on the side. We all knew the knowledge of programs and equipment, so we all helped each other to learn and become more experienced with these technologies. Looking back at the preliminary task, what do you feel that you've learned from the progression to full project? As a group and as individuals, we have all, since our preliminary task, learned a lot about not only filming, but editing and making a soundtrack, and how to create efficient plans and how to conduct useful research. When we were doing the preliminary task, we had lots of different ideas, and we all had to think of all the possibilities behind them, such as lighting, setting, characters and storyline. We knew that we wanted to do a psychological thriller, but we weren't sure about how to go about one. We decided that we'd research on the internet about psychological thrillers, and even look at lots of different ones and gathered a few films that we'd like to base ours around, or take certain ideas from the films that we'd watched and thought that we could put into opening sequence. But again, we had to also think about how limited we are. We decided we liked the plots of The Talented Mr. Ripley, The Flight Plan and The Lovely Bones. These are all psychological thrillers and have all the plot about somebody who's being played around by the mind, or paedophilia or abduction. We decided to make a storyboard of what we'd imagined to happen and then after decide if it's what we all want and if it's doable. When planning, we got to go over every point from scene 1 to the end. We noted down on each scene what the camera angles we could use, which gave us time to list different ones we were able to use, and what would suit our scenes best. Before planning, we hadn't thought of camera angles, we just saw a vision of the opening sequence in our heads, and after we discovered we could do it, we make it much more effective with the right camera techniques. We were doing everything basic, much like how our preliminary task was. So planning and writing all our thoughts and ideas down on what we could do helped later on and gave us a direction to head towards. We had a list of shot types we could use and even visited a few parks to use. There was one near our school, but the environment wasn't very clear. It was very noisy as it was near a road, and we wouldn't have a lot of time to visit, as the park would be busy with the other children. So there was a park near one of our houses which was near a woods, so it was silent, except when the airplanes passed over, but we can wait for them to pass. It was rarely busy and had a good atmosphere, and importantly it had the bench facing towards the park, which is what we needed most. After using the equipment in our preliminary task, we understood the basic techniques we would need to create our opening sequence. We got a better feel of how to set it up and put the equipment away, and how to connect the camera to the tripod. We also learned how to do basic editing from our preliminary task, which helped us again to know the basics what we needed to create our opening sequence. Doing the preliminary task helped us to get a feel of what the real filming will be like, and how we can each take turns on filming, and also what it's like to take part in the film by acting. We feel that by doing the preliminary task, we found out the basics, which obviously helped a huge amount to creating a short opening sequence and ensuring it was successful with the right camera and editing techniques.